Good job, guys. You guys are good. You guys are good guys. You guys are good guys. You know that?
Good morning. Good morning. We are here once again, live and direct, in person for the More Motivation podcast. We're super excited to
Yep.
bring you some content for this particular week. We got two furry friends with us this morning.
That's right. That's right.
They up bright and early. They ready to, get it in as well. So I am the co-host, Troy Christopher Moore. We have the founder and the president, Mr. Kendrick Moore. Good morning, Kendrick. How you doing this
Man,
morning?
I'm excited. It's always great to be in person. As you mentioned, sometimes Cody joins us, sometimes Cassie joins us, but they both ready to rock and roll early. So I'm locked in and ready to go.
Man, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man. And happy Monday to everyone as well.
Yeah.
Again, we just like to show off when we're in person, because we don't get to do this often.
That's right. That's right.
Now, as we do here at More Motivation, because we like to inspire, encourage, as well as promote other individuals, businesses, things that they're doing in the community to shout them out. So, what's the shout out that we have for this week?
Yeah, so the shout out is really a collaboration that just happened, and we mentioned it a few weeks ago, where More Motivation times our ambassador program, where we got two athletes, DJ Biggins, Jay Sean Williams, who we've collaborated with, kids that I've been working with, probably both of them since I would say around that middle school age,
Mm-hmm.
and just really being able to give something back to them because of their discipline, commitment, sacrifice, resilience, and the ability to really be fully engaged and lock in. So our collaboration, man, and it's like I said, to give back to them and their service. We have our gear. They'll
Mm.
be, wearing their mindset, right? Wearing sacrifice,
Yes.
wearing resilience.
Yes.
And we're asking our audience to support that mission.
Okay.
When we say support the
Okay.
youth and the things that they stand for, and when you talk about getting behind something positive, which is the brand of More Motivation, what we stand for. So all proceeds, if you want to buy the gear, you see the commitment shirt right there. Cody standing on we got our resilience gear. I got the new 5 Pillars logo on the side here.
Nice. Nice.
So you'll be able to wear your mentality, and at the same time supporting that cause.
Yeah.
But then also supporting our HLM. So a part of it is the HLM fundraisers, which we do every year as well. So, man, listen, we love doing what we do. Shout out to my man Chewy, a Sean Avent T-shirt world. He set everything up for us, so we ready to
Gotcha.
rock and roll. But yeah, that's what we got going on.
Man, that's a phenomenal thing. So towards the end of the podcast, good people, we'll touch back on this again.
Yeah.
Where you can get the gear from and how to support it.
Right.
So we'll touch base on that. Now, we had some tremendous feedback from last week, and I'm really kind of anticipating to hear some of this feedback from last week because of this week's podcast. So
Yep.
talk to us about the feedback and some of the feedback that we got from last week.
So it's something that so many people go through, and at the same time, while they're going through this thing, which we called unfixed, they never point their finger back to where it started,
Yeah.
And how it began. So you get to your teenage years, you get to your middle age years, your early 20s heading into your late 20s headed into your 30s, your latter years. And if you never point to where this thing started, you never really find a solution.
Right.
So that unfixed conversation was powerful because so many people are living in that space.
Yeah.
They've carried things that they never solved, blind spots from their younger years, latter years in their relationships, on to, can you imagine that? Something that happened to you 4, 5, 6 that didn't happen with the relationships, and 10, 11, 12, middle teen, and you're carrying it on for the rest of your life.
Wow.
So that unfixed was a powerful conversation, man. And so many people go through it. So I just challenge everybody to where they are right now. Look back on some of those relationships,
Yeah.
and were they healthy at certain times, and are you carrying that on with you right now?
Yeah. And to our listeners, I wanted to throw this out there to our listeners, that what makes this content that we share so powerful is because we're sharing this because we've lived it.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? This ain't just something that we just kind of thought of and said,
Right.
let's just do it. But it's actually genuine because we've lived it.
Yeah.
And because we were able to walk through it, we want to be that light to help others
That's right.
kind
Yeah,
of
for
walk
sure.
through the
For
same
sure. For
thing.
sure. Yep.
So now let's get into this week's podcast, because like I said, I'm anticipating something great and powerful for this week. So what is the topic we have for this week?
So we think about it where we've had some really powerful topics, and this has been one of them.
Yeah.
Where we know we almost forced to revisit based on the
Right.
conversations and feedback.
Yeah.
So we're going unfixed part 2. So
Okay.
we're going to stay right in that lane and really further discuss this topic of being unfixed.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just get right into
Yeah.
this, man, because like I said, we've been anticipating this, especially from the feedback we
Yeah.
got from last week. So let's get right in it.
So I think about this, Troy, like, and I don't want to call it a horror movie, but I liken it to that in the sense of, and again, we challenge the audience, make sure you listen to part 1. When we used to watch our horror movies growing up, especially Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
part 2, as it started, it revisited the end of part 1.
Right.
And it was
Right.
always that thing going
Right.
on to give you like that, man, I remember that thing happened.
Yeah.
Now here we go. So I want to start this part 2 of Unfixed very similar to how we ended when you talked about the glass breaking and that shattered glass
Yeah.
and then being put back together. Because when you're putting those pieces back together, you got to think, if a glass shatters and it starts to get put back together, is every piece in the right place?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And
Right.
and you think about a glass breaking, are you going to be able to collect all of the pieces and put them back together? That's the thing when you talk about unfixed.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to revisit that part, because it's like sometimes, Troy, when damage gets done, damage is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
When damage gets done, it's done.
Right.
And
Right.
even though we think we fix it, there's some parts of it that are permanent. I liken it to this. There's this conversation about, when I'm using this example with people, and I heard it, so I use it with people when we talk about the words we use, people becoming unfixed, those things that last a lifetime. It's like, every time you say a bad word, you put a nail in the fence. Like, right? So this is with people that have trouble dealing with relationships, dealing with people using bad words towards people, whatever. So every day because you can't stop, right? Because you can't stop mistreating people, or because you can't stop overthinking, whatever the case may be, nail. And then at a certain point, you get tired of the nails and you slowly start to, because now if you're not doing it, you get to remove the nails from the fence.
Right.
So now you take the nail out of the wooden fence. Okay, man, I'm getting a little better. Take the
Yeah.
nail out. And I ask people, okay, after all the nails out, but what's still there? The damage to the fence. The damage to the fence is still there. Even though you're not putting any more nails in it, even though you're removing nails because your behavior's gotten better, the damage is still to that fence.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what happened to me, as I described in part 1, when I left that space, when I was broken, when I was unfixed, became unfixed at Missouri and got to Providence. The damage was there. So that's so important to remember as we start to rebuild from that space of being unfixed. Like it has lingering effects.
Yeah.
Lingering effects. So at that same time, while you're being healed, you got to make sure you're intentional about doing things that keep you in a good space. Because at any moment, if you don't, that unfixed person can show up.
Wow. Yeah, this this is definitely the topic we got to touch base on.
For sure.
So now, is there hope for people that are unfixed? Because it seems like it's a place that many people never leave from. So talk to us about that.
So the hardest part about this conversation, Troy, as we mentioned, your relationship should look a certain way at certain points in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's your childhood relationships with your parents, with your peers, if you're not being nurtured and given the right things at certain times, they become lingering things, especially when you see other healthy relationships growing up.
Right.
Now you get to the point in your latter years and you're this unfixed person. When damage gets done, who wants to revisit a bad space?
Right. Right.
Who really wants to come to grips with what really went on? So when we talk about, man, can this thing be fixed? The first part of it is admitting what happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being able to come to grips with what truly went on. Like, how did I get to this point?
Yeah.
So that becomes the struggle because people don't want to revisit that pain in their mind. They don't want to revisit that space. Revisiting those tough relationships that didn't go well. Revisiting a space where if you're a child and you expected to have this nurturing relationship with your parents and it never, who wants to revisit that if it never happened?
That's right. That's right.
So that's a very tough part when we talk about, am I ever going to be fixed? Because there's one thing to know that the damage is always going to be there, because here's the deal. You can't erase history.
That's correct.
The past, it happened.
Right. That's correct.
The best thing you can do is to put yourself in a space where you can deal with it better.
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't that what trauma is?
Right.
The revisiting of, in your mental, the revisiting of past events that harmed you.
Right.
So that's why it's so hard to become this fully fixed person again. Not only from the physical standpoint, but also the fact that you yourself don't want to revisit that pain. But it starts with coming to grips with it and admitting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like truly, like, no, this really happened.
Yeah.
This is how this particular thing looked. And now you own that.
Right.
And Troy, only then can you move forward.
Right.
Only then, if can you move, you gotta be honest with what went on. So that's where that starts. We gotta get people to start there. As we talked about, Troy, we talk about these topics because they're relatable to us.
Right. That's right.
This ain't, and when we say the audience, when we say you, we're a part of you.
Right.
We get to talk to ourselves about it because it's things that, man, in a moment when we leave this podcast, when we go to our own spaces, especially when we're not in person, we got to deal with real life as well.
Right.
So, so I just wanted to say that because, like, we're in this thing together.
That's right.
Like, MooreMotivation, we're in this thing together. So, but again, when we talk about that, like, we gotta get to that point where if nobody say it's gonna be easy,
right,
but revisit, work through that thing so we can get to where we want to be, which is as close to whole and fixed as possible.
Right, man. Wow. So now, talk to us about this, because the thing that we don't want to revisit the most times has to do with past trauma, relationships, which you spoke about, in part one. And it was a great and a powerful point. So can you talk to us about the impact again for our viewers? Like how you talked about with the horror movie, how you gotta go back and come back. So talk to us about that and revisit that particular area.
And it's important to have this conversation because, again, while we don't want to revisit the pain, we know it started somewhere. And the majority of this started with relationships. The majority of our conversations about, see, because when people get older, if they're doing oh, I don't need you, that's not a healthy thing.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm good by myself.
Right.
Those are not healthy things to
Not at
say.
all. Not at all.
People
Not at
need
all.
people.
Right.
Relationships are a very critical part of life. And it's when those relationships haven't been nurtured at a young age, when you've seen the wrong things, is when you start coming up with that, where I don't really want to deal with nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can do this, but that's not the norm, or it shouldn't be the norm. So that's why, because so many people excuse it. That's why we wanted to revisit the topic, and that's why I want to really revisit this area right here.
Yeah.
When we talk about how relationships at a young age have impacted the unfixed person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you're, and again, we talked about some of this in part 1, but if you as a child saw a mismanaged relationship, unhealthy relationship with your parents, then yeah, you might be turned off from a marriage or
Mm-hmm.
being with somebody.
Right.
And when you get to an adult age, you just start saying, I don't need nobody, but really it comes from what you saw.
That's correct. That's correct.
If you have seen that as a young child, you probably grow up saying like, marriage is not a good thing.
Mm.
And it's worse when you start feeding that to your kids.
Correct.
You know
Correct.
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
based on what you saw.
Yeah.
And now, because based on what you saw, you probably mismanaged the relationship with your partner. Now you just fully bought into marriage is not for people. Can you imagine now you spill that down to your younger daughter? So you kill the dreams, those fairy tale dreams that she had,
Right.
of the big puffy dress and walking down the aisle, and all you spit into her is marriage ain't a good thing. You shouldn't want to get married. All from what you saw as a child.
Yeah. Wow.
There's so many layers to that. There's so many layers to what we see as children in those early relationships, or when certain relationships start. Like, right, when you first start getting friends and really understanding what a friend is. If those relationships become unhealthy, it has broken your trust in people. Now you start growing up saying, I don't even like people. I don't need no friends. No, you do need friends.
Right.
Social life is important.
Very important.
Going through an argument with somebody, that's healthy.
Yeah.
And then reconvening the next day, that's a healthy thing. You don't just have a person that you care about, that you meet, that you connect with, and all of a sudden something go wrong. You're just like, you know what? He ain't my friend no more. That's not healthy.
Right.
So a lot of those things just happen to go back there. We just don't understand the severity of it. We start doing things at an adult age, and we always blame something else. We never look at it for what it is, because we don't want to revisit it. We don't want to revisit those childhood years or those relationships that marred our vision of what should have made us fixed at the time. So that's why I want to I'm glad you brought that up, Troy, because that's a very important thing to make sure that we understand the value of our early relationships.
Wow. Man, so we're coming to an end here for this week in this podcast. And while you were talking about, the reality of facing the issue,
Right.
I thought about this verse from a rap song, and it says, time doesn't go backwards, it goes forward. You can't run from the pain, run towards it. Right. So now talk to us as we get ready to end this podcast, how critical, how important it is to face these things that has caused us to be unfixed, so that we can then become better.
So I'm gonna say lock in before I even get to the end on this segment. That's a powerful conversation and powerful end to this podcast. running towards the pain. We can only move forward if we get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you will never get through, or you will never move forward. Like, it's our job to get through the pain.
Yeah.
135, whatever this episode is, I can't remember when we did Insecure State of Mind, when we talked about trauma, when we did the blind spots. But this is why we say we do these things for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no intention behind it going into it to make them connect, but they connect.
Yeah.
Because blind spots was just about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got to know, because when we talked about the closeness of the things that happened in our past, it has nothing to do with real distance. It has to do with the impact it has on us.
Right. Right.
Because something, I would call it bad, for the lack of a better term, that may have happened to me yesterday, I might be way past that. Something that happened to me 35 years ago, I might be still holding on to.
Right.
That's closer to me than the bad thing that happened yesterday, depending
Right.
on its impact.
Right.
Especially if I never dealt with it.
Yeah.
So that's why that's important. And with that segue, Troy, was big time, because I gotta get through that. I had to be conscious and get through that. And ask, you know how many times I asked myself, why did things happen?
Mm-hmm.
Or why did things go a certain way when we grew up? Like, man, why did that happen that particular way?
Yeah.
But with me revisiting that, it causes me to work through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge on, or else don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Or don't even worry about it. Like, I'm intentional, man, like, I remember those things that I wonder why. And it gets me to compartmentalize and put things in their proper place. Maybe this person dealt with this and they didn't know how to manage me. Maybe this person dealt with that before they even came together, and understanding that their relationship looked a certain way based, to us, but they had a certain idea of what was going on. Like, so you got to put these things together.
Yeah.
You got to put these things together, because one of the things I find out when I ask why is that there was still love that was present. Sometimes they just didn't know how to show it.
Yeah. Indeed.
They just didn't know how to show it.
Right. Indeed.
So that's why it's important. Let's face the pain. Let's be able to go through the struggle. And we're here together. We're here together, audience. We're here together to go through the struggle together, because we know if we can get through it, we can move forward. So lock in.
Listeners, you heard it here. Before you even get into this week's podcast, check out last week with Unfixed Part 1 first, and then you'll see how these two kind of merge together. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. Have a fabulous week. You can catch this on Spotify, Podbean, as well as the More Basketball Clinic. And because we're in person, you can catch that as well. We thank you so much for tuning in. Send us your feedback. We want to hear from you, especially with this Part 2 session.
Right.
We definitely want to hear back from you. So have a fabulous week, and thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.
Lock in.
I just want to thank my son, Kendrick Moore, for dedicating his life to helping our youth. I know it's a tough task, but keep up the good work with More Basketball Clinic. I'm proud of the man you have become. I love you.